sometimes in the NFL season, quarterbacks exceed expectations, and they play great. They have amazing statistical seasons. Usually when we have these topics, it's about which quarterback is going to break out because we want to be positive.
Exactly.
But sometimes you got to look at the world in a realistic point of view.
Are you capable of that?
Yeah, definitely. I always look at things realistically. The 3 quarterbacks that I think shocked the world, like Rod Wave, this past season, was Geno Smith, comeback player of the year. Daniel Jones led the Giants to the playoffs in one playoff game. And Tua was number 1 in a lot of quarterback stats for a majority of the season. Now, which quarterback is most likely to regress after a breakout 2022? Now, Dehls, I'm very curious to hear your answer for this.
I saw this question, thought about it for maybe 10 seconds, and the answer just came to me. It was pretty easy. It's Daniel Jones. Nothing against Daniel Jones, but I'm gonna give
flip aside.
I'm gonna give
You're just unbelievable.
I'm gonna give your guy credit, so don't disrespect me. Tua has too much talent and too good of a head coach to fail. With all due respect to Tua, he's a good quarterback. Will he ever be elite? Probably not. No. Will he always be an upper echelon quarterback with Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, Mike McDaniel? Probably be a above average quarterback. I have a hard time seeing Tua taking a massive step back from last season and just completely going down to the dumps and not being good, not being respectable. There's just too much there for him to work with. Geno Smith, I think, might be the most talented out of all 3 of these guys. I saw him make high-level throws. I saw him make tight window throws. I saw him have a better year than Russell Wilson did the previous season, leading the league in completion percentage. Winning or being in competition for a half with the 49ers is pretty impressive as well. So that leaves Daniel Jones. And I don't want this to be a shit on Daniel Jones segment because I think for the most part, a majority of NFL fans know what Daniel Jones is. He's an average quarterback. He can have above average moments. He could have below average moments.
Remember when he said he had no flaws? You remember that?
Yeah, but he doesn't do anything exceptional.
Hey, you remember that? I'm talking to you. You like to recall on...
Doesn't ring a bell.
Go to hell.
Listen, Daniel Jones might not have a huge flaw like to his arm strength, for example.
That is also a stupid narrative.
What Daniel Jones doesn't have is he doesn't do anything exceptional.
Turn on the fucking film.
He's a good athlete, but he's not Lamar. He's not Justin Fields. He's not Kyler. He has a good arm, but it's not Josh Allen. It's none of these elite guys. For the most part, last year, he was throwing to wide open receivers on beautiful, beautiful schemed routes with, hey, Brian Dable, coach of the year. He'll still be there. He'll still dial those up. You brought in Darren Waller. Love that move. Hodgins, another year in the system. We're talking about them drafting potentially another receiver in this draft. So he's going to have some weapons. But I look at the other guys in Tua and Geno Smith. They're in better situations. And for Geno Smith, he's just straight up a much better quarterback than what Daniel Jones is right now. The Giants' schedule also gets a lot harder. Last year, they won the easiest schedule in the NFL. This year, they have top 10 in terms of last year's record, strength of schedule. So it's not going to be a cakewalk like it was this previous season. Daniel Jones will have a fine year, 3,700 yards, 25 touchdowns, maybe 10 interceptions or so. But he would probably be the one I would pick out of this group to regress.
Said a lot there, Dehls. Said a lot. Now, Drew, am I mistaken, or are you going to go with Geno Smith?
Here's the thing about this.
And disrespect his name.
Here's the thing. Right.
Comeback.
You came up with this topic directly meant for me. It was obvious. 2 of my guys, and Geno Smith, who I don't care for too much, but I've given him his respect. Rightfully so. Comeback player of the year. He was amazing. Comeback player of the year because really it wasn't due to injury. It was just due to the fact that he never got burned because he wasn't good. He goes to Seattle and was fantastic. I'll give him his praise, no doubt. You said it first in completion percentage, well over 4,000 yards. He was great. I'll say this. Give Daniel Jones, DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett. Give him Kenny Walker. Give him Pete Carroll. Well, I can't say that because he has Brian Dable, one of the better offensive coaches in the game. Really?
Really? Kenneth Walker.
Yeah, no. I mean, he has to be in that mix. He's a great skill
You can give Daniel Jones
player.
that stuff and also tell Daniel Jones to read the field like Geno Smith. He won't be able to.
I just get tired of you saying this narrative that he's not great at reading the field.
Everything's schemed up for him.
Same with Geno Smith.
Nah, Geno Smith made a lot of high-level throws, bro.
And so did Daniel Jones.
Not
that level.
Not like Geno, no duh.
Geno made
because
10
their
times
offense,
more
yeah,
big-time
why
throws.
is that? Because their
he's
offense
better.
was pass first. Why is that? You have DK Metcalf. You have Tyler Lockett. You have that luxury because you have dogs on the outside. Nevertheless, I'm not taking anything away from Geno. Ultimately, you have to go onto the field and you have to produce. No way in hell am I going to say Tua is going to regress. He was fantastic this year. All he's going to do is continue to get better. God willing, he stays on the field. That's the only concern. He was unbelievable. First in terms of passer rating. First in terms of yards per completion. First in EPA. Because people love EPA. So I just got to make sure that we throw that in there.
You hate
Talking about a
EPA.
Tua.
His favorite stat. Oh, I hate it. I hate it. I couldn't stand it.
What are you talking about Tua
Because
right
I
now?
know
push
people
it.
love it.
Push it. Love it.
Regardless of that fact.
Expected play average.
I can't say that DJ is going to regress because the talent is going to continue to get better. He's now in year 2 of Brian Dable's system. In year 1, he retained it relatively quickly and was still able to have success. So much success that they beat Joel Moran's Minnesota Vikings. So now you bring in Darren Waller. That is a huge upgrade. Will definitely be his number 1 target, but he cannot be the only upgrade you make to this wide receiving core this offseason. I need to see the Giants make a big splash on draft day for a wide receiver. At the minimum, you need to try and acquire a receiver, whether it's via trade or through the draft. I need to see it because you can't go into the season with Isaiah Hodgins, Darius Slayton,
Paris Campbell.
I forgot that
Darren
was a
Waller.
big addition. And Sterling Shepard, who you cannot rely on because of his injury history. I love Sterling Shepard in terms of the Giants' offense. Him and Daniel Jones have an obvious connection. But the one who's prone to regress is Geno Smith. Can he replicate this? Is he really in a position to replicate this type of season?
Yes.
I only look at DJ in terms of, hey, right, he got knocked for throwing only 15 touchdowns this season. That number's bound to go up.
Go down.
Tua threw 28 touchdowns in 13 games. He plays a full 17. That's going to go up. Geno Smith played the entirety of the season, was phenomenal. But this was the first year that we saw Geno Smith be great. I still think that he's going to be good, but it won't be what we saw this past season.
Man.
John, I want to get spicy here. Geno Smith is actually in the best position to replicate what he just did. Seattle's only getting better. DK Metcalf is great. Tyler Lockett is great. I'm looking here, Geno Smith, and let me ask you, what stat did you say was first EPA? Tua, okay. You know, he's a stats merchant. I ain't going to push back. A lot of numbers look great for him.
I'm the stat merchant.
Love stat.
No,
merchant.
I said Tua.
Tua.
Okay, I almost vomited.
The advanced numbers love Tua. They do. Geno Smith this past season was 5th in big time throw percentage. Daniel Jones was 32nd. Daniel Jones had 8 big time throws this past season.
Why are you talking to me about Daniel Jones' passing when he was throwing to no one?
He's a quarterback.
He had no good weapons.
Let me ask you, Dehls.
Why is it that Lamar Jackson gets the benefit of the doubt of no weapons? But God forbid I try to tag that with Daniel Jones.
Have you seen Lamar Jackson play football?
amazing.
Lamar Jackson had double the
All
big
right,
time
are
throws
we-
of Daniel Jones in less games.
All right,
Nobody.
all right, coming from the king of Lamar Jackson's done nothing in the playoffs. Who had a better playoff debut?
Daniel Jones. Lamar Jackson
What was
has
the
has
rookie?
not had the luxury of playing a trash defense like that.
Daniel Jones in year 4.
Daniel Jones is surrounded by the worst supporting cast in the league.
That defense was absolutely dog shit. Lamar Jackson has faced good defenses.
I think it's a
Titans,
matter of
Bills.
arm talent. Where Geno
We
can
saw
make
Daniel
high-level
Jones. Like,
throws in
why
a
do
tight
we just
window.
throw away the Eagles game? He was dog shit.
It was
the
so
Eagles were
bad.
significantly better.
He was dog shit. Yo, let me, Dehls.
Here we go.
Daniel Jones was 32nd in big time throws. He had 8. You want to know what other quarterbacks had 8 big time throws? Mike White
Hey,
in less games.
in
Wow.
like 3 games probably.
Zach Wilson, a
Garrett
bust.
Wilson. Oh my God.
Marcus Mariota
Yeah,
had more. Had
We're
the same.
talking about like 3 games of Mike
Baker
White.
Baker
Garrett Wilson,
Mayfield
what were his numbers
had the
in
same
those
amount of
games?
big time throws.
How many did Mac Jones have? With no
Mac
weapons?
Jones. Let me look at Mac Jones. He was 12th with 22 big time throws this
Oh,
past season.
almost triple.
With the receivers, are they anything great? And
Jacoby Myers would come to the Giants and immediately be their number
But he's
one.
not a big time player like
And
that.
Hunter
he's not
Henry
a downfield
was
receiver.
coming to the
Hunter
Giants.
Henry's not a downfield
Yes,
receiver.
those are
either.
not
No one's
take the
saying
top
that.
off the defense.
We're
But
talking
that's
about
not
big time,
no
we're talking
big
about
time throws is
that's
also
20 plus yards.
Is that what the status?
Yeah, 20.
Big time throws. I'm just
I think
assuming
we're
that it's just a
seeing-
big in terms of like situation.
No, it usually has to do with
Placement.
yardage.
What Joel is getting at is that Daniel Jones doesn't have the arm talent to be able to tight a high level throw in such a tight window.
In
like
terms
Geno
of
Smith.
big time throw percentage, Daniel Jones ranked 60th in the NFL.
Oh, jeez.
60th in the
I'm
NFL.
glad
many
that you guys
players
are going
qualify?
to do this.
Geno Smith is in by far the least position to regress. I think he's a good player, and watching the tape, when you look at Daniel Jones, Tua, and Geno was the best quarterback. He looked the best. The throws he made were the best.
Not better than Tua.
They were the best. The reason why I'm not going to say Tua's going to regress the reason why I'm not going to say DJ is going to regress out of these guys, it's hard to regress from 15 passing touchdowns. It really is.
That's why your answer couldn't be DJ.
It ain't going to be. But Daniel Jones, he might have a little bit better statistical season. It'll be the same quarterback. Daniel Jones won't be nothing special. Tua is going to regress big time. He is. And the reason why is because
It's just so fucking
you look at
stupid.
Tua's best stretch this past season, it was against the Steelers, which they had like 4 dropped interceptions in that game.
We did.
Detroit.
That was his first game back from the concussion that was televised repeatedly.
Okay,
nonstop.
cool. Detroit. He smoked them. They fired the defense. They fired the secondary coach
Imagine
right
being
after
that good that they fired defensive.
Chicago was a dog shit defense.
Coach.
Cleveland was not a good defense this past season either. They were all right. Stopping the run, they were one of the worst in the league, like statistically, historically.
Right, stopping
bad.
the run, but why did Tua light him up for over
And then
300
Houston,
yards?
and then
I'm
Houston,
asking, right? What their run defense was so historically bad. Why did Tua light them up?
and
so
then
fast?
Houston, he had good stats against Houston.
A secondary that's actually solid too.
The games where Tua padded his stats: Detroit, Chicago, Cleveland, Houston. 11 touchdowns, 0 interceptions in those games. I'm including Pittsburgh in this as well. Tua in December. Man, this was y'all boogeyman. This is what every Dolphins fan was waiting for. The San Francisco game, Chargers, Buffalo. I'm not even going to include Green Bay because of the concussion. It's a bit unfair, right? San Francisco, Chargers, Buffalo. Those 3 games, 49% completion percentage, 5 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, 83 passer rating. Now, if I had in the Green Bay game, it looks very bad. It's 6 touchdowns and 5 interceptions in that stretch.
Talk to me. That Bills game, Tua was bad.
Tua wasn't good. He was all right.
Huh? In that Bills
He
game,
wasn't good. He
You're
made one
in the
fucking
snow.
throw, bro.
In the snow.
He only made one throw.
They lost by 3 points.
The
defense let up 32.
We gonna act like Raheem Mostert was not good in that game.
He
was
was,
great.
but we're gonna pretend like Tua wasn't.
We're
either.
not gonna act like Tua threw a ball to a slant to Jalen Waddle and he just took it to the house.
Okay, you
Huh?
act like it's a bad.
Jalen Waddle did everything for him.
my
We're not gonna talk about the deep ball
Jackson
Tua threw to Jalen Waddle where he actually underthrew him. Like Tua had a negative EPA in all these 3 games, by the way. Also, Green
'Cause you
Bay.
love EPA, right?
And Tua this year was 12th in turnover-worthy plays, despite playing 13 games. In terms of turnover-worthy play percentage, he had the same percentage as Josh Allen, who led the league in it, and Geno Smith, who also were 1 and 2. They were both 1 and 2. And yes, you might want to knock Geno for the turnover-worthy plays. That's because he's aggressive as hell as well. And there's a balance to
So
that.
Tua being right, if you're gonna say him trying to make passes that you shouldn't and leading to interceptions, that means the aggression. So then why are you knocking Tua for it then?
Because Tua was 20th in big time throws. He was not even top 10 in big time throws. Yet he had the.
How many throws did we see
Yet
him-
he was tied
So
first for the
why
highest
was-
percentage of turnover-worthy plays.
Yards after the catch, yards per completion prior to yards after the catch, Tua was still number 1.
We talking about big time throws though. He didn't make a lot of big time throws.
All right, but that doesn't.
he didn't
mean
make as much
anything
as
to
Geno
me.
or Josh Allen.
He still led the league in terms of that. So
Dehls,
come on,
Dehls.
bro.
This is the Dolphins' schedule this season. Just
It's hard.
defenses. The Jets twice. That's an elite defense, right? Can
Of
you know,
course.
the Patriots twice. The
Oh,
Bills
good defense.
twice.
They're okay. Bills are okay.
Washington.
They're okay. Washington's a good defense.
The Chargers.
They're okay. They
TBD.
gave him hell last time though.
Yeah.
The Broncos.
Hell,
We're dogs.
The Cowboys.
tough,
We'll see.
The Ravens.
tough,
That's a bad defense. Yeah.
The Eagles.
They're really good.
tough.
We'll see.
And now the last 2 that they're not in this group, but the Titans and Panthers, they're not slouches
Could be
defensively
stingy.
either. Tua does not have light games in this schedule. He's not going to be lighting teams up like he did last year.
And we're all going predicated off last season, how these teams look. Think about it. Prior to this season, in terms of schedule difficulty, the Seahawks were definitely catered into these strength of schedules because no one projected the Seahawks to be this good and completely changed the outlook of things. So I really take this strength of schedule shit with a grain of salt, if I'm being completely transparent.
You're overlooking how much better the Dolphins' defense will be if Vic Fangio coming in and their additions of Jalen Ramsey. I mean, that defense is going to take a huge, at least notable step forward, right? And that's going to support Tua as well because he doesn't have to drop 30 to win a game. He can only drop 24, 21. There's going to be less pressure, less expectation. Who is most likely to regress? This has been a generational hate episode by you. I got to admit, bro. Who is most
Generational
likely
hate.
to regress? Daniel Jones, Tua Tagovailoa, or Geno Smith? That's a really hard question because all three of those quarterbacks are supported very well. The quarterback with the least amount of support would be Daniel Jones.
He
Drew makes
supported
that
well?
face. He
He
has
supported well?
Ryan Dable.
Is the coach of the
That's
year.
it.
One of
Ryan
the best.
Dable.
Oh my
But
God.
the reason that
Coaching
matters,
Y'all swear to God.
Coaching
Y'all swear
matters
to
a
God
lot.
that the
That's
half
coaches
the
are
game.
on the field playing.
But
You
coaching's half the
swear
game.
down that these guys
Dude,
line
Daniel
up
Jones-
with these
Daniel
guys and
Jones was
play.
throwing to
Scheme
some
is like
wild
80% of the
guys.
NFL.
Oh my
Half the game.
God.
Like Daniel Jones was throwing up straight up naked guys.
And
no
that's
one's
the
around
thing.
them.
It's a gimmicky offense where Brian Dable maximized Daniel Jones with limited personnel. But we also have to acknowledge, like Joel pointed out before, big-time throws. Daniel Jones is not as talented as Geno Smith. Geno fit high-level throws into tight windows down the field on the run. Some of the
He was
throws he
special.
made were MVP light. Daniel Jones doesn't have that in him. Daniel Jones will improve this year the same way he limited his turnovers, got better on the run, and was tough as shit. Playing 16 games on that offensive line, that's impressive. But as a thrower of the football, I acknowledged it before, Kenny Pickett needs to work on his footwork, staying in the pocket. Daniel Jones, there's a limitation, maybe even deeper as a thrower, where he's not going to throw a guy open. He's not going to fit high-low throws in the tight windows. So because of that, I look at these quarterbacks and say Geno Smith, the same way you said it. Geno Smith's I can't even speak right now. Geno is the least likely to regress because he is the best quarterback out of this group, and he also has two number one wide receivers, or at least two very good wide receivers. I won't say number one for Tyler Lockett. And the offense line's getting better. I think Geno's going to build off of last year. Maybe not play as well as he did in the first half, but we saw a little bit in 2021. This is who Geno is. I would like to think that he's going to continue playing at top 15 level.
That's a fact.
Tua is the quarterback that I do worry about his injury history. If he's not playing enough games, he'd be the least likely to regress.
And statistically, Geno's the easiest to regress because he had played all games. He was healthy and led the league in completion percentage. So if you want to look just statistically, Geno is probably most likely because he had the best season. But I think if you actually watch them play, and also the total wins for teams, like I don't know if the Giants are making the playoffs again. I feel pretty confident about Seattle. And Miami, I still think is going to be around that 9-10 win mark.
I agree. And this might be a hot take, but I think Seattle's going to challenge San Fran for that number one spot in the NFC West.
Quarterback, big question mark.
They got two first round picks. They could hit on.
Number 5 overall.
I feel very comfortable in the Seahawks just improving this roster.
If they
And I
hit on
trust
this
the
draft,
coaching.
they're a Super Bowl contender.
Yeah, there's no doubt.
I'm not going to shit talk the Seahawks because I did last season, and it was one of the worst opinions I've had ever.